Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents, I don't know any other way to do this. I don't know any other way to say this. I was watching a movie. Name of the movie was called Black, B-L-A-C-K, being black in Minneapolis. And I only watched, how many minutes of this have I watched thus far? 13 minutes and 44 seconds. And when it first came on, the first thing I said was, how is it possible in this so-called wannabe country, the so-called land of the wannabe free, that the black experience is the same? Now, I'm not angry. No. Not disappointed. No. I'm not even surprised. Why? Because to be angry, disappointed, and surprised would mean that it was unexpected. We got so many people trying to tell people of so-called color how they should feel. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know anything about the young man who plays for the New Jersey Nets. All I know is that he used to play with LeBron James. I've never ever watched him play. I'm sure he's a pretty good player. But because he promoted a video about, and I don't even agree with it, Hebrew and black, from Hebrew to black. I think the name of the actual title is From Hebrew to Black. I don't agree with the idea that the Israelites were black. Why? Why did I not believe that? Well, for the simple fact that Jacob, they were the tribes of Jacob, the tribes of Israel. Israel is another name for Jacob. His name was changed to Israel. He was Syrian. Lord have mercy. Remember, Abraham was from the land of Ur. Ur is in southern Iraq. Ancient Ur is southern Iraq. He was not Ethiopian. They were Syrians. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why you got to get it right. Remember, the Arabs come from Abraham. So, and I know people will disagree with me. That was Jimmy Cuzzier and Shaggy. And they're in a loop. So we're going to take them out of the loop and we're going to mix them up, okay? But that was Jimmy and Shaggy. Anyway, because he mentioned that he liked the movie, all of a sudden, pay attention, hey, don't take offense to this. This is the truth. The white people, including Steve Kerr, says that they condemned his promoting of that film because it was an anti-Semitic film, that it somehow spoke against the Jews. Really? Are we there now? To where we can't even speak contrary to someone else's ideas, beliefs? The land of the free, from what I'm told. What free? Somebody's got to help me with this one because I don't understand. What I do understand is, while watching Being Black in Memphis, Memphis. No, I'm sorry. And I know that there's the same experience in Memphis, but Being Black in Minneapolis. Ladies and gentlemen, I get it. I get it. But I promise you, I don't get it. I really, really, really don't get it. You know how they say if one person's saying something about you, and then another person saying something about another person saying something about you, it's got to be true? You know how people say that? So how come everywhere you go, people of color, pay attention, people of color are having the same experience with the police? Somebody please tell me, because I'm not understanding it. Just a quick heads up. China has been cracking down again on COVID. They've done another couple of lockdowns. Now, I'm not agreeing with that. You know, I don't know what's going on in China. But what I do know is that something's going on in China. Anybody have any idea? Now, not asking for your comments. I'm just saying something ain't right. Just thought I'd mention that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, the very point that people of color, and see, I grew up different than the rest of you. See, I've always been a Jehovah's Witness all my life. Jehovah's Witnesses are passive by nature and by order, because the Christ asked us to be. Taught us to love our enemies. So if our enemy insults us, as if slapping us on one cheek, we're to let them insult us again. Which is why I let the idiots insult me. I ain't got no problem with that. People insulting me, please. It's par for the course, so to speak. So it ain't no big deal. Yeah, does it bother me? Of course it does. But why would I get upset over it? Anybody? Anybody? As I said on the last video, my mother had already taught us that if anybody says anything about her, I told this to several people in the last week, that my mother said, we come home and say, oh, Mama, they were talking about you at school today. My mother said, who was talking about me? And we would mention the names of these so-called wannabe friends that we had. First, we didn't understand that those idiots weren't our friends. Okay, so don't blame us. But she explained to us, them people don't know me. Let them say whatever they want to say. Okay, she literally said that. They don't know me, and you know what? She was right. They didn't know her. So, W.T. frankincense. What did it matter that they said something about her? So what? They said something. Ladies and gentlemen, in our society right now, I was just telling someone else the same thing. Now it's not just blacks, it's also Hispanics. We have to think as to what time of day we're going to be going out. Now, this was my routine in Los Angeles. When I left the house, I made sure I was not on the street between 3 and 4 p.m. Does anybody know why I did not travel on the street between 3 and 4 p.m.? And I'm sorry, I got to correct that. No. I was on the street between 3 and 4 p.m. I was not on the street after 4 p.m. Between 5 and 6? No. Between 2 and 3? No. Why not? Oh, 7 a.m. in the morning? You would not catch me on nobody's street driving around in South Central Los Angeles. Does anybody know why I would not be on the street during those hours? Some of you already got it. I ain't even got to say anything. See, it's a Wycliffe and all that. I think I might be able to let that one play. Because I have not heard these songs before. I'm letting them play in my background, and I got to be careful. Okay? Got to be very, very, very careful. The reason why I wouldn't drive during those hours is because I knew what time police shifts took place. See, there are 2 police shifts at the police station. The same shifts happen in the prison. They maintain the same shifts. There is a briefing after they come on duty. So you have about 30 minutes before shift literally changes and they're back out on the street. And when they're back out on the street, hey, they're gun-ho. They just came from a briefing and they're ready to get into something. Now, the older officers, you know, they ain't getting into nothing. They want to just go home. They want to do their job. They want to go back and mind their own business. But it's the younger ones who are looking for something to do because they are bored. It's the worst position to be in as a police officer is to be bored, because you know something's going to happen. You know something's going to jump off. But the most dangerous position as a police officer is to be expecting something to jump off. Blacks and Hispanics, the only ones who have to think and plan going out in public. You watch the movie, they show it to you. These guys are just on their way to the mother's house. And while they're on their way to the mother's house, police decide to follow them. Then he decides to pull it over, and one guy actually questions them in a way that they didn't expect or respect. And so what do? They pull him out of the car and claim that he matched the description of a robbery suspect. Literally, that he matched the description of a robbery suspect. Ladies and gentlemen, stuff like that has to stop. Match the description? That cannot be a cause for arrest. The identification has to either be positive or it can't be at all. It cannot be, well, he almost fits the description. Nope. Cannot be because of his height and his weight that he matches the description. There has to be at least 6 different parameters that have to be met before someone can say that someone matched the description. I know that means that so many other people will get away, but we're talking about due process. Okay? We're talking about due process. I don't understand this world we live in. It's a very interesting society in which we live. Okay? It's a very interesting society in which we live. As I said before, how is it possible that throughout the United States, in every state, in every city, that the very same experience for people of color is the very same experience for people of color? Can't say it's a Southern and a white thing. Cannot say that. And now they want to vilify Kyrie Irving. Why are they vilifying Kyrie Irving? Because he had an opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not the only one. You heard me talk about Kanye West. All Kanye West did, if you go look at the video of Kanye West wearing the Black Lives Matter sweater, sweatsuit, sweatshirt, doesn't matter what he was wearing. It simply was black and had White Lives Matter in white. The young lady standing next to him had a white sweatshirt on with White Lives Matter in black. And nobody got the parody. Lord have mercy. And they couldn't compare it to the people marching around talking about Black Lives Matter who were not black. Go ahead, at the beginning, most of the people were black, but at the end, because you know how black people do, we don't stay around until the end. Shoot, movie's just about over, we're getting up, but white folks, y'all stay to the credits. Sorry, I apologize for you white folks who got offended by that stereotype, but it is true. I've been to theaters and I stayed around just to see who stays to the end, and y'all sitting up there singing and everything. However, with shows like The Matrix, after the credits, they usually give you a teaser. And so that's primarily a reason why many of the folks stay to the end of the movie. Most people didn't understand that, but hey, black folks, that's what they would say about y'all. Y'all stay around to the end of the film, watching the credits. You know, but now we understood. Y'all were sitting up there having ice cream after everybody else went to sleep. Ended up sitting up there eating dessert and drinking your beer and everything, having a good time while everybody else was going to sleep. You know how when kids, they go to sleep and they're afraid their parents are sitting up there doing something, they're having fun or something? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's what happens at the end of most of the movies. That's why you see the folks, whether it be white, black, green, purple, or orange, sitting around to the end of the credits. They're looking to see if there's going to be a teaser, so to speak. All right. Back to this. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing we can do about it. We cannot change society. Society has been this way for 400 years. Now remember, I don't believe in the 400-year theory, but it is 400 years. Because since the 1600s, there has been slavery in America. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to take this call because this is a call from jail. 1 second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play this song by Jimmy Cozier as I finish explaining to you what has been the narrative. The young man who just called me is in jail here in California. He's the one who wrote the instrument that was using the Treasury information. As I stated before, the Treasury doesn't own the routing number. The ABA does not own the routing number. Just like you don't own the 9 digits associated with your Social Security number, even if it has dashes. That's not yours. Doesn't belong to the Treasury, doesn't belong to the United States. Nobody owns any numbers. Go ahead. Tell me who owns the number. Go ahead and tell me who owns the number 1. What about the number 54? What about the number 8 million? Who owns it? Anybody can use numbers anytime they want. Nobody owns the numbers or the dashes. Shh. Don't worry about it. It's a simple response to a court who's trying to play games and the Treasury who tries to play games. He had one mission in court today. They held him as incompetent from day one. The police station did a psychological evaluation and said he was incompetent. And from that point on, the judge agreed with them and appointed counsel and told him he couldn't speak. So I wrote something up for him, letting the judge know how stupid that was and how they couldn't do that, but I was nice because this was somebody else's life. See, if I write it, I'm going to call the judge all kind of names as to who they really are. But when I'm writing it for somebody else, I'm just going to state what the facts are and what the law is. And that's what I did in his case. However, I found out about everything last week, and I put it together last week for him. And it didn't get to him in time to deliver to the court, but it got mailed to the court today. Told him that's fine. Just be patient. Said you're not going to get out for the next 45 days at least anyway. But they had a status conference today just to offer him a plea. Told him he'll get 6 months. They'll knock off 3. He'll be out in 3. He said no. Why would you plead guilty to fraud? Ladies and gentlemen, you plead guilty to fraud, and now that interferes with you getting bank accounts and doing financial transactions from this point on. So the paperwork that's being put in for him tells the court, no, tell me what I did wrong. Spell it out, because here's the law. So we gave him a copy of the law. We put the law on the record, and we put the court on judicial notice of those facts. I told him, said, all you got to do is let the paperwork do its job. I said, I've covered every angle for you. Said, you ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to speak on nothing. You ain't got to say nothing. You just need to understand everything is already done. So the only thing you need to do is tell the court, hey, I have a right to a competency hearing because you haven't given me a competency hearing, so I have that right. And then, hey, this attorney right here, he works for the public defender's office, right? That's a division of the attorney general's office, right? Well, how can the attorney general be prosecuting me and the attorney general be defending me at the same time, and they both be officers of the court, and you sit up here? Sorry, that's a conflict of interest. I'm going to need this idiot to be substituted. So that's all you have to say. You ain't got to say nothing else. Nothing else! So he called me. He was pretty proud of himself. And I shot him down, took out his knees, took out his legs, took out his ankles. I even took out his torso. Brought him all the way down to the top of his skull. Saying, what the... All you had to do was say 2 simple things and you brought in all the other junk. He started talking about trust. He started talking... And I told him, I said, whoa, hold on now. This is your life. I said, you're the one going through this experience. So God's gonna shut up and let you have your life. Let you do what you want to do. I'm not going to interfere with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I told him, I said, I know how long the night it's going to be. And I know you're going to have this on your mind, but I don't care. Told him the problem was he asked for my help. And because he asked for my help, I was providing him some assistance. One of those Lord have mercies. Ladies and gentlemen, told him he won't get no more help from me. In this matter, he's on his own. Look, I don't need to stress. He doesn't want to listen. You want to ask me for my help, then you're going to follow my instructions. The same as the people who are going with AmeriLegion or the people who are going with the organization AMCF. Artful! Follow instructions. We will save your home. Don't follow instructions. You're the only one to be blaming. Yourself, not us. Why? Because our instructions are specific. After research, after understanding what the law is, we're not bringing in all that other junk. Go ahead. I had somebody tell me that I was going to bring in, what's the name of that stupid, Title 12, Section 412, into his arbitration when I did his arbitration. And asked me, begged me not to bring that in. And I'm like, I can't talk to him because that's ex parte communication. But I'm going, what is wrong with this idiot? Why would he think I would do something like that? I ain't done nothing like that before. An arbitration is an arbitration. Whatever decision I make as an arbitrator is mine. Stay up out of my business. That's the way I was thinking. Woosah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to this conversation. There are too many people, ladies and gentlemen, who were not bad people. Now, I know there's a lot of bad people on this planet and in this planet. I know that. I met many of them. I've been inside prisons with many of them. So I do know that there are bad people in this world. As one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I promise you, I know that there are bad people in this world. Please understand, there are a lot of people who haven't done anything to cause the police to accost them, to harass them, to arrest them. There are a lot of people who have not done anything to have that happen. But that's what they're going through. So, let me get real with you. Because, you know what? That's the one thing I haven't done. Jimmy, we're going to come back to you. It's gotten real with you guys. The reason why I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses is because Jehovah promises a resurrection. Go ahead. No other God. No other God. Go ahead. No other God promises a resurrection for those who have died, our loved ones. Go ahead. Go and check. All the other so-called gods promises reincarnation, which is impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, if reincarnation were actually possible, if we were actually being reincarnated, and let's say we were reincarnated into plants and birds and trees and flowers and everything, then how come we're not traveling in space, going to Mars, Venus, Jupiter, the Andromeda quadrant? How come we're not in space by now? No, see, reincarnation means that our knowledge expands and gets greater and greater, and it has nothing to do with stupid patents because we are all growing together. Ain't that right, homie? See, look right here. Ain't that right, homie? See, he agreeing with me. We're all growing together. We're all expanding together. We're all gaining the knowledge together because it's reincarnation, so we're transferring that knowledge to each other. So if reincarnation were reality, then we wouldn't be here anymore. We'd be in space by now. We'd be colonizing. No way around it. Reincarnation means that we keep coming back, so we learn from our experiences. But you don't remember. Who told you don't remember? Where'd you come up with that rule at? See, every time you tell them a condition for which their ideology doesn't fit, they come up with a condition. Well, the reason why, the reason? No, show me. Where's it written at? You have a book that talks about where is it written? They can't show you that. The other thing that Jehovah promises is he promises to get rid of wickedness. All the bad people gone. All of them, including the bad police officers, because not every police officer is bad. But the real bad ones are still on the force. The good ones, many of them are dead. Ladies and gentlemen, many of the good police officers are dead. Those are the ones who get shot. Because why? The bad police officers allow them to get shot. I'm just telling it to you like it is. This ain't the first time. What was this TV show? It's called Bosch. Okay, Bosch. I think it's Bosch Revamped or Legacy. They explain that quite clearly. Remember, it's called the Green Mile in California. Not the Green Mile, but the Green Wall. The blue wall, the green wall, the shield and all that stuff, how the brotherhood, how they support each other, how they back each other up no matter how wrong they are. That is the worst policy on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. If you do something wrong and I'm working with you, you better believe I'm not going to support you. If you violate somebody's rights, you better believe I am not going to support you. You do not deserve my support. You deserve my condemnation. Okay? Why? Because you are a disgrace. You are a danger to everybody, including yourself. You are a danger to the whole reason why individuals became what they became. Shame on you for thinking that you were entitled. I gotta go get something. Be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have an inverter and a charge controller all in one. So it's a charge controller and an inverter for 48 volts. So now I have to convert my 3 24-volt batteries into 48 volts, which I can, and then connect them to the inverter. Yay! That's what I'm getting ready to do. That device is what I've needed for a while, and I had to spend the last of my last getting that junk. But in doing so, beneficial to me. All right, back to letting you all know why I serve the God that I serve. Not only does he promise and guarantee a resurrection for anyone who's died who wasn't wicked. He says the righteous and the unrighteous. Doesn't say the wicked. He also promises to get rid of all bad people, wicked people. Then he promises to allow individuals the opportunity of living forever. Doesn't promise that they will live forever. He promises to give them the opportunity because they get to control that. They get to control whether or not they're going to appreciate the offer. That's the God that I serve. The scriptures I just quoted are simple. I mean, they're all over the Bible. You have the book of John. Just read the 11th chapter and the 5th chapter of John. 5th chapter, verse 28, 29, even 26 to 29. You got Psalms, the book of Psalms, the 34th chapter, and the 29th chapter. Or 37:29, excuse me. 37:29, 37:10 and 11, 34. Man, ton of information. Then you got Isaiah, the 35th chapter, and the 65th chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, you got Psalms, the 21st chapter, where he actually makes the promise, gives you a guarantee, tell you to write it down, because you can bank on it. That's why I serve the God that I serve, because he's the only one who keeps his promises. In fact, his name means he keeps his promises. Literally, that's what it breaks down to in every sense of the word. He says in Isaiah, the 55th chapter, the word that goes forth from his mouth will prove to be, and it will not return without results. But it will accomplish that for which he has sent it forth. So I trust him on that. Why? Because nobody has ever proved him to be a liar. But as Paul says, and as the book of Isaiah says, though every man be a liar, but he proves to be true. That's why I serve him. I am sorry, my fellow people of color, whether you be Hispanic or persons of darker race. I apologize to you that our society is the way it is. That we have not learned to do what Rodney King said. Now, Rodney King was associated with Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mr. King said the same thing that I wish I could say to you. Why can't we all just get along? It was a simple comment by Rodney, because you could see that he couldn't see why the world was the way it was. Yeah, he had his faults, like we all do. But Rodney, you could see that he wasn't a bad person at all. Yeah, fine, he was in a Hyundai doing over 60 miles an hour and leaving the police, but you guys don't understand. Rodney King was in Simi Valley, California, Kern County. I am right next to Kern County. Right next to Kern County. And I understand the racism and prejudice that goes on in Kern County. I understand what people go through when they're of color in Kern County, and nobody outside of California, outside of South Central, could understand why Rodney King did not want to pull over for the CHP that night. Hold on, wait a minute! Before y'all start thinking the wrong thing and start saying, well, he should have did this and he should have did that. Do you see what happened when he pulled over? No. No, don't you dare. There was no justification for what happened to that man. Not a single ounce or shred of justification for what happened to that man. Those officers should have went to jail. They should have went to jail, but they did not. Only because it made national news did anything come out of that. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all don't seem to get it. This is our society. This is the world in which we live. This is how we treat people. But Kern County is not the only county. Cook County in Illinois is the same. But we all know all the different parishes and counties and villages that are like this. Black people avoid those areas. But we're the only ones, people of color, blacks and Hispanics, who have to avoid traveling through certain areas. Why? Because it's the same mentality during slavery. This is what they taught us. Stay out of this area. You don't belong here, boy. Where are your papers at? Don't you understand? That's what the police are doing when they pull you over. We got several YouTube videos where the officer's saying you don't belong in this area. Why? Because it's their job to keep the area free of certain elements. Ladies and gentlemen, can you look at a person and tell what they are, who they are, why they are? Well, if you can, who gave you the right? No, hold on. Police officers, what gave them the right to look at a person and judge them based on their character and not the content of their character? That's what that person, Martin Luther, was saying. I'm not a big fan of Martin Luther. At first I thought, Martin Luther was all right, but I understand that he wasn't. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, I understand that he wasn't. Martin Luther had everybody else thinking that they were getting civil rights. Ladies and gentlemen, they got the right to vote. The Civil Rights Act was already written. And they knew it. So let's do this, because I haven't done this yet. Give me 1 second. Let's go. Oh, I'm not connected. For the sake of this video, I didn't connect to the internet. Give me 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a couple of minutes because I was working on the system. But while working on the system, I almost forgot what I was going to the internet to look up. And it's the Civil Rights Act of 1866. What I hadn't done before is we haven't covered the Civil Rights Act of 1866. I have less than 45 minutes before my meeting. And so while having this conversation with y'alls and discussing this, I am opening this solar inverter. This box that is, they usually tell you with solar, you can tell whether or not something is worthwhile because of its weight. And the UPS driver would say to me, be careful, it's got some weight to it, as he handed it to me. So it's called the First Civil Rights Act of 1866. I am looking for the PDF. This should be good enough. I already have it on my computer. I've expressed to all of you that prior to Martin Luther King and them getting the right to vote for anybody, they didn't have to go and get anyone's right to vote. So we're only going to cover a little bit of this. We're not going to cover the whole thing. I just need to point out to you that this applies to everybody. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. Doesn't matter if you're Asian or Hispanic. It's not that type of civil rights. We've been taught that civil rights, that's only for black people. That's a lie, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just for black people. Pay attention. An act to protect all persons in the United States in their civil rights and to furnish a means of their vindication. You have the right to vindication, people, and they have to give you access to that means, i.e. redress. Be it enacted by the Senate and House Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that all persons born in the United States not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians, not taxed, are hereby declared citizens of the United States. Wait a minute. I'm not no 14th Amendment citizen. This is not the 14th Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. This was written before the 14th Amendment. Pay attention. So get that junk out of your head. This ain't got nothing to do with that. This is the Civil Rights Act of 1866, not the 14th so-called stupid amendment. It says, and such citizens, United States citizens, of every race, color, without regard to previous condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, including prison, except as punishment for a crime, now not during punishment of a crime, where they shall have been duly convicted. Ladies and gentlemen, without due process, it's not a duly convicted process. Shall have the same rights in every state and territory of the United States to make and enforce contracts. To make and enforce contracts. They cannot interfere with your right to contract. Arbitration agreements, anybody? To sue, to be parties and give evidence. To inherit, purchase, and lease, sell, hold, and convey real or personal property. To the full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of the person and property, as is enjoyed by white citizens, and shall be subject to like punishment, pains, and penalties, and to none other any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or customs to the contrary withstanding. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, it says any law. Well, statutes are not laws, ordinances are not laws, regulations are not laws, customs are not laws. They are not laws. See, any law. So if statutes were law, it would just say any law and stop there. If regulations were law, they would just say regulations and not have law. If statutes were law, they would just say any other statute. They wouldn't have all these commas signifying a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, your best friend. Be it further enacted that any person who under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom shall subject or cause to be subjected any inhabitant of any state, doesn't matter if you're a U.S. citizen or not, or territory to the deprivation of any right, doesn't matter if you're an illegal alien or a citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, secured and protected by this act, or to different punishment, pains, or penalties on account of such person having at any time been held in condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, except for the punishment of a crime where the party shall have been duly convicted, or by reason of his color, race, than is prescribed for the punishment of white persons, shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and on conviction shall be punished by fine not exceeding $1,000 or imprisonment not exceeding 1 year, or both, in the discretion of the court. Ladies and gentlemen, to treat somebody as this or that, to hold somebody as this or that, as a result of their race, color, and to treat them differently, like I told the many agencies that I've dealt with, your policy says this: you have denied me access to the policy by denying me my rights under your own policy, but you didn't do this for anyone else. That's an so-called key marker for racism. Why? Because if you didn't do it to the next person, if you didn't do it for Tommy, Bobby, Ricky, or Mike, but you did it for me, then that means that you're discriminating against me, or you're discriminating against them. And if it's a pain, if it's a penalty, if it's a punishment, then that means you're discriminating against me, and you're not subjecting me to the same punishment and pains as anyone else. So, i.e., you are guilty of a misdemeanor, according to the law. Now, remember, make sure you guys understand this is criminal. On conviction, this is a criminal statute. It's not a civil statute. Anyone under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom. This is the under color of law statute. Let's pay attention. We're not going to read the whole thing. It's not even long. It's 4 pages, people. All you got to do is read it and study it, get to know it. This is your Achilles heel for the system. This is how you put them in their place. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't advocate rising up against government, because I don't serve any man-made government. Man cannot get rid of all of our pains, all of our sufferings. Man cannot do that. But we were taught that we are to give Caesar the things that Caesar is due. Do you guys not understand that? Well, Caesar is not due retaliation. He's not due violence. He is due put through the same system as anyone else. He's due equal protection under the law. So let's do this. Let's find out what they enacted, be it further enacted, that the district courts of the United States within their respective districts shall have exclusively of the courts of the several states cognizance of all crimes and offenses committed against the provisions of this act, and also concurrently with the circuit courts of the United States of all causes, civil and criminal, affecting persons who were denied or cannot enforce in the courts or judicial tribunals of the state or locality where they may be any of the rights secured them by the first section of this act, or if any suit or prosecution, civil or criminal, has been or shall be commenced in any state court against such a person for any cause whatsoever, or against any officer or civil or military or other person for any arrest or imprisonment, trespass, or wrongs done or committed by virtue or under color of authority deprived from this act, or the acts establishing of the Bureau for relief of the freedmen and refugees. They've gotten rid of the Bureau. Okay? And all acts amendatory thereof, or for refusing to do any act upon the grounds that it, is inconsistent with this act, such defendant shall have the right to remove such cause for trial to the proper district or circuit court in the manner prescribed by the act relating to habeas corpus or regulating judicial proceeding in certain cases, approved March 3, 1863, and all acts amendatory thereof. The jurisdiction of civil and criminal matters hereby conferred on the district courts and the circuit courts of the United States shall be exercised and enforced in conformity with the laws of the United States, so far as such laws are suitable for carrying out the same into effect. But in all cases where such laws are not adopted to the object or are deficient in the provisions necessary to furnish suitable remedies and punishment against offenses against law, the common law, as modified and changed by the Constitution and statutes of the state wherein the court has jurisdiction of the cause, civil or criminal, is held so far as the same is not inconsistent with the Constitution and the laws of the United States, shall be extended to and govern said courts and trials. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This common law, the common law, is not the court's common law. They are saying the common law in the state, not the common law of the courts. States have their own laws. Okay? Disposition of such cause, if of a criminal nature, in the infliction of punishment of the party is found guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to read this document. It's only 4 pages long. I've only covered a page and a half. Take a look at it. It is not a long act. Most of your protections come from this. You bring a claim against somebody, bring it up under affidavit of information, or information supported by affidavit, or criminal information supported by affidavit. You bring a criminal charge against a judge in the form of information supported by affidavit. By law, you send it to the Attorney General. By law, that judge, as long as you document violations of the law according to this act, that judge cannot sit as a judge. Okay? Those of you who are people of color and who are finding yourself being accosted and harassed, let them do the accosting and harassment, and then bring a criminal charge against them under the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Go over the document, study the document. Don't go according to those stupid case law of today where the Supreme Court has said this or said that. Go according to the act as written. They haven't amended this act. They can't, because they took something away from black people. We're not talking about any other race right now. They took something away from black people. They took away their humanity. They took away their dignity. And they did it all in the name of the law. Well, they violated the law in doing so. They have no protection. They have no protection. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to let you all go. This inverter is what I've been waiting on, and I'm going to have to get it installed because we're going to have rain for the rest of the week, on and off, after tomorrow. And so my solar system does still pull in energy despite, let me say it right, despite the clouds. So I can still charge my system fully with the clouds up, but I need to make sure the system is connected correctly. So thank you, everyone. Y'all has a good day. I speaks to y'all's later, okay? Adios, y'all.